Welcome to This Just In, the show bringing you the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and public policy. And now, for the fastest voice in healthcare, here's your host, Justin Barnes.
Thank you for tuning in, and welcome to This Just In. I'm your host, Justin Barnes. In these segments, I'll bring you the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and public policy. As always, we're broadcasting from the This Just In studios on the Business Radio X network, as well as the Healthcare Now radio network. For this episode, my 235th episode, we have a very special return guest, Bradley Dick, Chief Interoperability and Security Officer from Cure for You Health. Welcome back to the show, my good friend.
Thank you, Justin. Really appreciate it. It's every time it seems to be a more enjoyable experience. I'm really looking forward to this one.
Well, we also, same here. And we certainly, we've been longtime friends in the industry and inside and outside the industry. But you're one of the intellectuals that I love to interview. Obviously, I have discussions with on a very regular basis. We work very closely together at times. But obviously, the content that you cover is always top of mind for me, but certainly top of mind for the industry in healthcare in general. So I'm looking very forward to. We're going to talk about interoperability today, leadership, security, and a couple other real cool strategic components for healthcare. So looking forward to it, my friend. Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's dive in with interoperability. So bottom line is the 21st Century Cures Act has really come back around again. So what are some of your thoughts there on how it's really changed interoperability?
So I think that it's been a great start, Justin. I think that's a great question because I mean, everybody. I think this time, 18 months ago, 2 years ago, it was all over everybody's mind. We were all rushing to get to this. They passed this law. Nobody really knew what it meant. Now everybody's freaking out because they now need to have APIs, and I think that it's one of those things where there's a lot of promise, and then we definitely had COVID kind of delayed some stuff, but I mean I still think we kind of we're not quite there yet, and we really need to continue moving forward with making true interoperability for health data. I mean I think we really kind of take for granted the fact that we can walk up with a credit card and pay for the credit card anywhere pretty much in the world almost at this point now. But your patient data can't follow you, from a practice that could be in the same medical office building. I mean, yeah. So I think that kind of really kind of sets the stage, and I know that there's complexities, but that really kind of sets the stage for the challenges that we still exist even post 21st Century Cares Act. Because I think we're only like 2 of the acts in, because I think there are multiple steps that we just haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually had Mickey on my show now several months ago, but in the new regulation had just been involved. And, I gave them kudos because I actually do believe, I know you do as well, that the Cures Act has certainly advanced interoperability. And we have much more ground to cover, more ground to cover. And we are and we will. But, I've seen, and I come from the vendor side of the house, certainly the EHR side of the house for 20 plus years. And I've really seen, and I know you have as well, and we can speak to this for, just for a couple of seconds, but I would love to, how they've opened up these APIs. They're pushing more data than ever before through their APIs. Now we have a long way to go, but I am encouraged. Would you say the same?
Yeah. It's definitely encouraged. I mean, it really kind of shone a light on something that it was one of those things that like everybody knew, but nobody really wanted to acknowledge that, the data was locked up in a lot of the larger vendors' systems. And, you had to kind of go through this walled off garden or this gatekeeper in order to get to it. And if you wanted to get to it, you had to play by the rules or their rules. So I think it definitely kind of levels the playing field. We just need to kind of really expand that and not just kind of get to the reg and then stop. We need to continue innovating. It can't be. It needs to be like that for forward propulsion. It can't just be like, let's get to the exact letter of the law and then we're going to stop all innovation, because that's my one challenge with a lot of these regulations. I think we saw the same thing with.
We go as far as pushes us, and that's it.
Exactly, like meaningful use. I mean, like when we really started trying to look at doing, some really. I'm not saying it was bad, but I'm just saying like when we really started looking at like things like, think where we'd be if we required, X-rays and that whole concept. Remember that was, I think, phase 2 or stage 2 meaningful use, and we just never got there. And I mean, it's kind of now we're kind of starting to get there, but I mean, it's we really need to push ourselves with these regulations.
Agree. So how, you and I talk about FHIR quite a bit. So how has FHIR changed or not changed interoperability in your opinion?
So I think, again, FHIR's another one of those things. I mean, it's been in development for a very long time, but, it is a pretty ubiquitous standard. We at Cure for You, we're actually able to build a complete interface with Cerner for our product using nothing but FHIR. So, we were able to get all that data. Kudos to Cerner for really kind of investing. But I mean, it was a very interesting process because what we started with at the beginning of the initiative of building the integration was a drastically different landscape than what we had 6 months, and it was kind of hard to plan because I think we were definitely on the leading edge there of FHIR because we really see that API as being the kind of the linchpin to really kind of open up the door to a lot of this data, but it was just like it's still evolving. So I'd say my biggest concern with it is the simple fact that it doesn't get too customized to a point where, my FHIR is different than your FHIR is different than your FHIR, kind of like what we saw with, HL7
Right.
and some of the other things and DICOM and some of the other challenges. It's like we can't take a standard and then customize it to a point where it's completely unusable between vendors. So.
Yep. And I don't usually highlight vendors on my show because I'm neutral. However, I will say interoperability is so key to the future of our industry. I mean, you look at our rising costs outside of, what COVID has done, data, well, our costs and are skyrocketing in so many different areas. Again, this is all even pre-COVID. But I mean, interoperability can help with a lot of that. And so I like to highlight people who have done a great job. And I believe Athena has done a phenomenal job. At Open Up. I think they have, in my opinion, one of the best APIs, if not the best API, at least with the EHR industry. I believe Epic's moving down this path. You guys work a lot with Epic now at Cure for You. Is that correct?
Yeah. Epic is definitely one of our biggest focuses. And, it's been great to see that they've really kind of jumped on FHIR and built out a lot of the functionality. But again, kind of making sure that it kind of keeps perpetuating itself.
Yes. Yep. Excellent. So, as a thought leader in the industry, what's the number one change that you feel could truly accelerate interoperability?
So, I kind of been vocal about this before in the past, and I really think that, the lack of a national patient identifier, it just makes everything so much more challenging. I mean, it's the reason that, we can't really have that credit card experience. And granted, I know that, I'm not trying to minimize the complexities, but, when you start saying, hey, I'd like to correlate these data pieces, but first I need to ensure that, this John Smith is actually that John Smith that I'm trying to correlate data pieces for.
Right.
And there's only so much data that you can use. And I mean, AI is only so good. I mean, when in my previous role at Resurgence, we actually had two people that were the same name, same birthday, same middle initial.
Right.
Luckily, one was African American and one was Caucasian. But that was so that we were able to actually look at their IDs and see that they were different. But I mean, if a company the size of Resurgence can have that, what is a Kaiser? I mean,
Right.
think about that. It's like a huge health system. So having that data point where we can have the unique identifier that we can then start using to correlate. I mean, that just opens up so many different things where now, you can be your identifier that can walk into any practice and we can correlate that data for you and for the provider to make those decisions. So, I mean, I really think if we want to really start talking about interoperability, we need to have a unique identifier that can be ubiquitous to whatever platform. And that way we can actually have the information that we need on the patient to make the clinical decision at the point of care. Yeah,
I completely agree. We every panel that I'm on, when interoperability comes up, somebody brings up the need for a national patient identifier. And I do spend time on Capitol Hill, and there's a renewed conversation. There's a lot of renewed support for getting one, trying to work through the privacy issues and really tackle that issue. So that item. So I believe we will get progress on that in the next 2 to 3 years. So I do believe there's more support there than ever before.
Oh, from your mouth to Congress is yours, right?
It's worked in the past.
Yep, that's worked.
So, kind of moving on to the leadership side of the equation, what do you see as key to being successful in your role as a technology leader? And when I say your role, I mean you're Chief Interoperability and Security Officer, but CIO, CTO, you really wear a lot of hats and have worn a lot of hats over your career. So, what are some of your thoughts there?
So, I think there's a number of different ones, but the one that I'd like to focus on, and it's kind of been one of my bigger focuses in my new role, has just been, building the relationships with vendor partners. I did that a great deal as CIO. I do that a great deal now in my current role as Chief Interoperability and Security Officer. It just, they say, kind of it takes a village. Well, I'd say from a business perspective, it takes an ecosystem. So you really need to have a network of people, and a lot of it, and I say people, but like you need to have a network of partners that you can reach out to, that you can engage for certain things. Because, nobody can be, the best at everything. And, in a lot of cases, you can have force multipliers that can impact, just by engaging a specific vendor. And I mean, having these relationships and these partnerships early on in your career, you can then watch a lot of these people grow, and as they progress, they can progress along with you. So having these relationships, having this network of people that you can call on when you need something to kind of give you that first mover advantage, to deliver something, or just come up with a solution, or hey, there's a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
We have an opportunity to close a big deal. We need an interoperability partner that we can kind of turnkey put in place and get going as quickly as possible. That's a competitive advantage that can help you close a deal. So all the way from the CIO side to my current role, having these great network of strategic partners is probably one of the best things that you can do for the success in your role as a technology leader.
So true. And that's great wisdom there, sage advice. And I've seen it, how, it's been successful, certainly in your world and in your past, in your current position. And I couldn't agree more. I leverage my network and my ecosystem on a consistent basis. I was actually just thinking last night how COVID has kind of taken some ecosystems away. I used to meet with people in person a lot. And then just at the advent of COVID, that all kind of got shut down just because we're all trying to be safe and bend the 2-week curve. Let's not forget that as a 2-week curve. And then and then I realized last night, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've gone now 2 years without meeting with some of those people that I was meeting with on a consistent basis, just to seek their wisdom, just to talk about everyday problems or items to build a company. And I miss that tremendously. So I completely agree with you, my friend. So what role do you see vendors, partners playing in your strategy? Because I know it's been important to my past. I know you've leveraged it significantly through your career, but what are some of your best practices or thoughts there?
So in my current role, one of the key things was, I saw a great opportunity from the standpoint of, we were a fast growth company that was leveraging a number of key vendors. I'll give a big shout out to Amazon. AWS is where our platform runs. But there was a great opportunity to really work with them to showcase our organization. And by working with them and said, hey, we invested in this relationship, built the relationship, met with a lot of the different teams, integrating that into our strategy overall. So now it's not just hey, we're using your we're using your SaaS offering or your cloud platform, and we're just paying a monthly fee. We're actually now an integrated partner where we're talking with them and we're working with them. And when we have challenges or we have opportunities, we can bring them in. So, I mean, it's so much more valuable, especially for a company our size, to be able to say, hey, we have this great opportunity. Can you get somebody from your BI to the BI tool QuickSight to join a call with us for this prospect? And if it was just if we didn't have that relationship there, that's a much different conversation than where I can just text my account rep who was Izzy. She's no longer our rep. She's moved on. Congratulations, she was promoted. But those type of quick reach outs and be able to loop in to a conversation is just instrumental. So having those relationships and having those vendors has basically really put us in a position where we can be successful. I mean, it's just in the past 18 months, we've done everything from, we did a case study with AWS on a rapid growth and expansion using their platform. We got written up with them. So, I mean, those are just really powerful types of engagement that you can have with these vendors that can, really kind of change your organization's strategy and kind of give you reach that you normally wouldn't have. An organization of our size normally wouldn't have the reach to get on, a YouTube channel with, several 100,000 subscribers. So, I mean, those are the type of things where it gives you so much credence as well. So, I mean, when you can actually go in there and say, hey, we're working with Amazon, or we're working with Twilio or AT&T or Samsung or any of the other number of vendors that we've, just been really great strategic partners throughout my career. It's been a huge win.
That's a great point. Excellent. And for those just tuning in, we're speaking with Bradley Dick, Chief Interoperability and Security Officer from Cure for You Health. So in that direction, Bradley, what are some of the keys to building great relationships and strong relationships with those partners?
So I'd say that, I wish I knew who said it. We said it a long time ago, a win-win where somebody wins twice is not really a partnership. Everybody says, hey, let's make it a win-win. And, you really try to go after it. And, there's been a number of times where I'll be honest with you, people that know me, I love negotiating. It's probably one of my favorite things to do. But in some cases, you can negotiate your way out of a good partnership by, putting together terms that, are so disadvantageous to the other party that, it's like, hey, yeah, we signed this, but, it's we begrudgingly did. So, I really think, making sure that, you identify kind of, what is the, what's the value add for both sides? Like what value does my organization add and what value does your organization add to each other? Figure out the reciprocal value and kind of figure out how to make everybody both win. There was a Reid Hoffman does the great podcast, and I think one of the things that he attributed a lot of his success to was playing Dungeons and Dragons and being a dungeon master when he was growing up. And bear with me here, because trust me, I'm not going to go into a Dungeons and Dragons because I don't play Dungeons and Dragons. But what resonated with me was the fact that what made him so successful in business was through being a dungeon master. I was able to identify what people saw themselves as in order to be successful. And, if you can have that ability to, you can kind of look at somebody or work with somebody, this is what they're looking to do. And this is how I can make them successful. Because, not everybody wants to be, for Dungeons and Dragons reference, the guy that slays the dragon. Some people want to be the support. So, there's a lot of different things that you can look at. Is how do you identify the value add that each person brings to this relationship, and then develop that. And then, I think that the last aspect that I would just say is, I alluded to it earlier, but so for example, I've had a great relationship with AT&T. I was on their advisory board for a number of years, like dating back to 2009. And back then, the RVP that I had at that time was Joe Dragas, who is now leads all of AT&T healthcare. Yep. But I've kept in touch with him. I built that great relationship with him. So, you never know that account manager that you have when you first started your career could be, the chief customer officer, yes, at a company later on. So, you never know who is going to be where. And, healthcare is such a small world. So that's definitely, if you're in healthcare, there's no smaller world than, everybody is everybody's Kevin Bacon in healthcare, it seems like. So everybody's kind of connected.
It's awesome. I could not agree more. And also, I think back to your Reid Hoffman example, things also change for people. I've noticed that even through my career, where I wanted to be that frontline person. I wanted to be that face of the organization. I wanted to be, helping lead and driving all the revenue and doing all these kind of things. And then you evolve. Over a period of time, over the last 25 years, I've decided, you know what? I want to help enable other people more than being the point person or the front person, the front man or something like that. And so we also evolve. And I think that's something to really naturally know about yourself, about where you really truly fit. And just because you fit somewhere 2 or 3 years ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago does not mean you fit there now from a personality perspective or just a desire perspective. So really know yourself inherently. Don't fall back to old habits. Always evolve. And I think that you will and it's fine that you say the same. That's great. But not everybody does. I've certainly noticed that about myself. And I think even the last piece that you brought up around, you just never know who that account manager today could be the chief customer officer tomorrow. That is so true. And I've seen that come around and, time and time again. And the good thing is, I always do unto others as I want done unto me. And so it's always served me extremely well. And I know, it served you because you build amazing relationships. Another reason I want to have you on the show today was just, I know you had strong bonds that you build with people in all corners of the industry. And so, your advice here and wisdom is so well respected, Bradley.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. And I think that honestly, that is exactly what you were just talking about. That right now in my stage of my career means so much more to me than probably it would have made 10 years ago. Yep. So I really appreciate that.
So my show's, usually based around best practices, and you've covered some cool points, but specifically, in your experience, your wisdom of the last 20, 25 years, what are 1 or 2 best practices that you would share with my audience on how to be the very best CIO or CTO or even Chief Interoperability Security Officer?
Oh, wow. So I think there's so many just really important things, and one of the things that I would like to highlight is just from the opportunity that I had. So I was a CIO on the provider side for 13 years, and now I've had now I'm on the vendor side or the partner side for a few years and the C level, and it's just been a great opportunity to really kind of see both sides of the equation. And what I would just say is one of the key things is any leader's goal should be to remove roadblocks from their team. I've really kind of gotten to this whole concept of this, the inverted pyramid from a leadership perspective, where, the leaders, yes, I'm going to be the leader, but, my role is to make sure that everybody else on my team doesn't have roadblocks so that they can achieve their goal. Because at the end of the day, if I'm the one that's producing, I'm really not the leader. My team should be producing. So, that's always been one of the things that, I really focused on is, how can I enable everyone around me to be as successful as they are? And that's kind of that whole coach, that evolving mentality. Because again, like I said, Bradley 10 years ago, that was not Bradley 10 years ago. It's kind of like one of those things, like, if you could kind of get in a time machine, like that one aspect is, how do you make everybody the most successful that they can be in their role, or identify the role that they can be? So, that's definitely one of the key things. And I think, maybe taking it back to a healthcare perspective, it's really kind of, at the end of the day, realizing that EHR record, or that patient record, or that patient on the support call, or, that provider that is seeing that patient, really realizing that, that patient could be going through the worst day of their life right. But that's not just an EHR record, or, a CT scan, or personally, my sister has been very sick in the hospital right now. And I mean, like those type of things, like, making sure, and what is it? It's a DAO, like making sure the human element, is not lost in healthcare. And I think sometimes, when you're in a technology leadership role, it's very easy to kind of lose sight of, it just becomes a record, but it's not a record, it's a human being. And I would say that was kind of, if you keep that in the front of your mind, your decisions and as a healthcare CIO, or just any leader in healthcare will really kind of be successful. That's the difference. I read a great LinkedIn post last night. It was I can't remember the guy's name, but he was from Geisinger, and he was like he was the director at Geisinger, and then the IT department. And Geisinger's been really struggling to have coverage, so they've been reaching out to the administrative departments, and they reached out, and he even said himself, he's like they've been reaching out for a long time, but like last night I didn't have an excuse on why I couldn't do it, so I applied, and today was my first day scrubbing up and working in the hospital. And he's like that was amazingly impactful. And I mean, that's really what it all comes down to at the end of the day. All the systems, all the technology that we're implementing, it's to deliver better patient care and have better patient outcomes. So
love it. Here, I got about 1 minute left here. Would love to get your on the security aspect. I know this is a big conversation in itself. We could do a whole show just on security. Yeah. But what is low-hanging fruit to improve security at your organization? I mean, what is some great, one or two things that someone can look out for to help immediately?
So I would say number one thing, if you do not have, multi-factor authentication, at very least on your key systems, maybe at a centralized level, you are just really kind of putting your organization in a very precarious position. I mean, multi-factor authentication has become so ubiquitous, so easily accessible now. I mean, just about everybody kind of includes it, or they force you to use it. It's a no-brainer. And kind of tying that into single sign-on. Single sign-on is probably, we deployed Okta about 12 years ago, or no, maybe not 12 years ago, maybe about 10 years ago now. About 10 years, whatever. We were one of the first implementations of Okta in Atlanta. And, being able to have a single location for all of your authentication really improves your security posture, because now you don't need to have multiple usernames and passwords. If you can consolidate that down and securely authenticate that way, that is really a huge, it's a huge win for your organization, and it's a huge win for your users. Because, at the end of the day, there's nothing will get a password written down and put on a sticky note faster than making it so complex or making it need to be changed. So that's kind of the thing. So by cutting down the number of passwords, cutting down the number of logins, and implementing multi-factor authentication, you can so drastically improve the security posture of your organization.
Love it. Excellent. Very sage advice. Bradley, thank you so much, my friend. Always a phenomenal guest, and we love having you on air, and I will certainly have you back, my friend.
Well, it definitely this was the most enjoyable. I really appreciate it, Justin. Thank you for having me on, and I look forward to talking about how successful the CARES Act is, and all the new innovations in fire the next time that we discuss, the next time that we talk.
You got it, my friend, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. And thank you to everyone for joining us today. And please tune in weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific. As always, you can track me on Twitter at HIT Advisors and use the hashtag ThisJustinRadio so you can respond to your comments from the show. If you missed any of this episode or want to hear more, all of my shows are posted on Apple iTunes, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Google Play, and TuneIn. You can also check out some of the new content that we just put out there on justinbarnes.com. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.